Saul Canelo Alvarez completely schooled Jaime Munguia over 12 rounds on Saturday night. And yet, Jaime Munguia's stock does not fall at all because he came to fight every single round, and he was always trying to win for the entire fight, even though Canelo Alvarez had complete control of the entire 12-round duration. So Canelo schooled Munguia in all areas, really, technically and intellectually. So let's take a look at the technical. I thought that perhaps Munguia's snappy combination power might overcome Canelo's sort of thudding single 1 and 2 punch counter shots, but it turned out to be the opposite. And the main reason was because of Canelo's super sophisticated defensive skills. So for his defense, he's using not just his feet to get in the right position. He's really great at with his body shifts, leaning back. You know, he manipulates his torso to lean back or to turn one way or the other, or to just barely deflect punches, and he allowed Munguia to miss, and that turned out to be the key. So, you know, the boxing pundits will say, well, you know, Munguia won the first few rounds, arguably, and was maybe ahead by the third round. But if you look at the course of the whole fight, you have to understand that Canelo was really still in control, even in the rounds that he lost. So he was measuring Munguia, he was seeing Munguia's power, and just figuring out Munguia's positioning and timing so that he could set him up in the later rounds. So to Munguia's credit, he did come with that 5-punch combo that I was looking for, the jab, right hand, body shot, left hook, and he did have success with that. Munguia was able to move Canelo back with his combinations at times in the early rounds, and even in spurts throughout the fight. But the key, I think, we can look at what happened with Canelo dropping Munguia in the fourth. So Munguia's moving Canelo backwards, pressing on Canelo, and then he misses at the last punch of his combo. Canelo avoids his left hook, so now Munguia's out of position, and as he comes back to center to reset, Canelo throws a left, faint body shot, or a lower shot that Munguia parries downwards. So now he's open. Canelo knows that he's going to do that, so he comes right back with that short, very short left hook to the chin, and then immediately that straight right uppercut. Now, I can't remember if I mentioned this earlier, but sort of the irony for me with Canelo, which kind of makes sense though, is that his most linear punches that are on the center line are always his uppercuts, whether they're right or left. His jab and his straight aren't always perfectly on the center line, kind of because Canelo's a little more stocky for his weight. So he's got a broad shoulder base, and he's a little bit shorter, so even his straight punches, like jab, right hand, tend to be a little more curved, or not quite exactly on the center line when he throws them. That said, so that stunned Munguia, and at that point, Canelo now jumps ahead on the cards, which is also shows me where he is, intellectually. He understood he could give away the first few rounds just to measure Munguia better, and then come back. And he knew that once he dropped him in the fourth, Canelo's such a veteran, he can keep the tally in his head. Now let's look at Canelo's superior defense. So he's not only using those subtle torso rotations. When they were fighting on the inside, notice how Canelo always had an active guard. He wasn't frozen with both hands up, covering up, like you see a lot of these younger fighters do that. And when think they're fighting inside, and they think defense is just to cover up and absorb punches and then wait for their opponent to be done and then fire back. But everybody could learn from watching Canelo defend on the inside. He's making very subtle body shifts with his guard, and he's also making very small parries with both hands. Now, by him doing so, that really sort of takes the steam, both physically and mentally, out of Munguia. Now, in terms of just tactically understanding how the scores in a fight will unfold, Canelo was super smart to let Munguia kind of win, so to speak, the first quarter of the fight. Then he comes back dramatically in the fourth to drop him. So now he's ahead on the cards as of the fourth round. So all Canelo has to do is just keep that momentum going, win the next 3 rounds, and now he's opened up the scorecards with a gap of 4 points. And one more, if he wins another round, that's now 5 points, which Munguia has to now try to recoup everything in the second half of the fight in order to eke out a decision victory. And that's asking for a lot for basically a high-level black belt. That's what Munguia is. You could say or an entry-level black belt in that world championship level. But Canelo's a high-level black belt. He knows full well that after he drops Munguia, Munguia's going to be looking to get that back and think, darn, I got dropped, first time in his career. He feels like he's got to prove himself, he's got to come back, and so he's going to be trying to come harder, and that just sort of plays into Canelo being able to set him up for counters. If he knows this guy's going to come forward at him, he can just time everything and allow him to miss the last punch off his combo and then come back with his counters. Or he can just simply look for the openings between Jaime's punch volume. So what Canelo has to focus on is a lot sort of narrower window than what Munguia is trying to focus on. So by winning the fourth round and the middle rounds, Canelo has now sort of bought himself a few rounds that he can take off, right, in the second half of the fight, if he chooses to. And I won't say he took the rounds off, but he just could he didn't have to dominate as hard in some of those later rounds, and he knew he would still eke out the W. And of course, Canelo's smart enough to know that he knows Freddie Roach knows that, and is going to have to advise Jaime accordingly, right? At a certain point in the fight, Freddie knows that they need a KO to win, and it's Freddie's due diligence to tell his fighter that. Whether he feels that Jaime is capable of getting a KO or not, any professional trainer who's in that position is obligated to tell their fighter that when they're on the stool between rounds. I mean, because if you don't, you're not doing your due diligence as a trainer. If you don't tell your fighter, hey, you need a KO, you can't lie to him and say, hey, you know what, we're winning the fight. Like that's not true. And then if your fighter actually believes that, then they're not gonna try to do what they need to do to actually win. Which can lead some of us to wonder whether, hey, could Canelo have knocked out Munguia? I mean, maybe there was, but why? Why should he do that when he's literally showing what a genius he is, not by not knocking him out, but by just masterfully, a masterful display of technical abilities, both offensive and defensive. It's also good for Canelo to get those rounds in against a high level fighter with dangerous power, who is physically bigger than him, at least taller. So It turned out to be a very enjoyable fight, I think, and in a sense, it was Munguia who made the fight, in the sense that he was always trying to win the fight. He didn't back down. He didn't, he didn't ever mentally give up, I don't think, and resort to tactics that we see some fighters doing, just to sort of avoid fighting. He didn't complain to the ref. None of that. And to his credit, in my opinion, Munguia looked way better losing to Alvarez than he did winning via KO versus Sergey Derevyanchenko. They were likely trying to get Munguia to throw the punches, throw the combination, and then make a defensive move. Now that's the part that Jaime wasn't always able to execute on in the fight. At all times. So it's just something he'll need to keep working on, and I'm sure he'll improve over the next few camps. Learning defensive skills at this stage of the game is something that Jaime is going to really have to work on over multiple camps with Freddie. But it's great to see the improvement that he's made just in the last couple of fights. So, hopefully that partnership continues, and I expect to see more improvement out of Jaime Munguia. As far as Canelo Alvarez is concerned, we know he's basically the shot caller. He's always the main event, May 5th and September 15th, so it's everyone's clamoring for David Benavidez, but in the end it's really up to Canelo what he wants to do. So I'm sure we'll hear a little more about that as September 15th grows closer. So did you enjoy the fight? What was your favorite aspect? Were you shocked that Canelo got the UD, or was that just something you figured would happen? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for listening.